Okay, here we are. Yeah, very excited. This is our first show of search parties.
Search parties. I love it. I love search parties.
I'm so thrilled. I'm so excited. I've done a podcast before, but I haven't done a video. So this is the first time I'm doing video. So for anyone that's watching, seriously apologize. We're still trying to figure out the whole aesthetics of all this, but. Like I said, this is the first one, and who we have here, I am so thrilled to talk to the powerhouse of Search Intelligence Group, Marie Bernardino. Okay, so a little bit about her. I'm sure you've probably read all about her on LinkedIn, and you've probably known her because she has been doing this for 20 years. 20 years of
Mm,
experience in recruiting industry. She has navigated multiple economic cycles, seen the
hmm
rise of digital sourcing firsthand, and built a reputation for connecting high-level talent with global organizations. Am I right? Of course I am. I know. Beyond
Sure.
her work as a recruiter and a talent partner, she is a dedicated coach and a community leader who is passionate about helping individuals navigate both her career transitions and personal resilience. She brings a unique perspective that blends decades of financial industry insight with a deep understanding of the human element in the business. Hi,
Mm.
Mary.
Hi. Human. That's the one of my favorite words, human.
Right?
Yeah.
So let us chat.
Mhm.
So I have a couple of questions for you. And
Okay.
right?
Yeah, we
Okay.
didn't prepare. I mean, I didn't
We
prepare.
well, I prepared. I came up with the questions. I didn't let you see them.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. You started your career, sorry to date you, 2006, just to give some
Mm,
perspective. Well, before LinkedIn was the behemoth that it is today, and before
mhm.
AI was even a whisper in the interview room. Looking back at those 20 years, what is the one fundamental human truth about recruiting that has remained unchanged despite all the tech?
What is the human truth that has been static amongst all the technology?
Yes.
I would probably say human connection. And without being cheesy, I think that there's been a variety of innovations, technology innovations that have come across through the last 2 decades, and it's okay to date me. It's all right. I'll take it. But I think that the human element, right? Again, not trying to be cheesy, but we can have all of these different technological solutions. But at the end of the day, what do we crave most? We want to be able to learn to trust. And how do you trust? The best way to trust is to have that human connection, right? It's almost like when we call American Express customer service and we all just rapidly keep pushing zero because we want to talk to the customer service person. So I think that the human element is really kind of the most static. So, and I think that's why we continue to thrive in headhunting and executive search.
Oh, no, love it. And you're so right. You're so true. It's the human connection that really speaks volumes and it hits all the emotions on both sides, both the client and the candidate side. Okay, next question.
Mhm.
With the current low fire environment, the cost of a bad hire has never been higher for a business. From your perspective, what is the most common mistake CEOs are making in their 2026 hiring criteria?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I'm going to align that and run a parallel that with that to AI. I think these days a lot of CEOs think, well, let me just go on to the internet or let me just use an AI tool to source the candidates I'm looking for. And typically they're leadership candidates, right, that we're focusing on. So I'll give you a real life example. We had a CEO that was looking for a VP of finance, and they think that they can just use AI to do that hire. Well, let's back it up first. What is the role of a CEO? A CEO is to lead the business in strategic initiatives, lead the business in just leadership in general of all of the different operating groups. And if they have equity investors or capital investors, just building trust and security with those capital investors. So if a recruiter, or if a CEO is sitting, on their breakfast table on a Saturday morning using that time to use AI to try to recruit their leadership talent, they're suffering two ways. Number one, they're taking the time away from their family that they should probably be using to nurture their family, spend time with their kids. But more importantly, if a CEO were to take, this is one of my favorite things, what do you make a year and bring that down to your hourly rate? You take
Hmm.
that hourly rate and you calculate the time of your hourly rate to the time spent on recruiting, if we're using recruiting as the pain point. Take that time that you spend on recruiting and is it worth it, right? But it's not just that number. It's also you have to calculate the time that you could be using, the time you spent using on recruiting. You think about if you use that time to advance the business, how much is it hurting you? And I think that's the biggest thing in 2026, especially with AI. I think a lot of CEOs are thinking that they can recruit via AI, but AI it can't vet out that human element. It can't vet out the communication skills of the leader that the CEO wants to hire. It can't vet out the nuances of that that leader that they want to hire. Um, Also, there's the risk, right? A CEO can try to go and recruit on their own, but they run the risk of losing that candidate somewhere in the pipeline where, and I'm not trying to sell executive search. I just think that we are we're so experienced and trained to really kind of vet out all those different little hidden things that people can't use AI for. We're talking to spouses, we're talking to the leader, how do they drive decisions? Um, what kind of experiences have they had from a leadership style that can contribute into an organization? A CEO can ask that, but for them to get to that is also taking away from driving their business forward.
Right. Okay. No, thank you. Okay, next question. All right, 2026 is officially the year of the AI agent in recruiting, as we have just spoke about. We've moved past simple resume scanners to autom automation tools. In a world where AI can write a perfect resume and another AI can screen it, how do you ensure that cultural fit and soft skills don't get lost in the machine?
How do I ensure that?
Yes,
Or what's my recommendation to a CEO in
both,
doing that?
both.
Well, then I'm giving away my secret sauce, right? Um,
Let's just say little advice, just a little forewarning, right? Because
yeah,
like you just said before, everyone uses AI, and it's very accessible to us, but we
yeah,
want to be smart about it. But what, as a recruiter telling a CEO, what are some things that they need to look out for?
sure. I would probably say the first one is authenticity, validating the level of experience that candidate might come across. Um, I think candidates these days, they'll put a bunch of words into their resume to make sure that it beats their algorithm, right? Or meets the algorithm, better said. And I think that people are doing that. They're smart about it, which is great because how do you get to the top of the resume funnel, the resume pipeline? Well, put all the right things onto your resume. So I think that that's probably the biggest hurdle is that the CEO needs to be able to validate that. And how do they validate that? Well, I think they're kind of like I would recommend miniature case studies. As a CEO, drive up some of the bigger problems that you have in your organization and this is all via the phone. This is not by text. This is not by email. This is not by LinkedIn back and forth, right? You have to get on the phone and speak to that candidate and also almost have like miniature case studies. What, you know, offer up your scenario of your organization and maybe one or two, maybe three pain points and see how that candidate had accomplished that or jumped over that hurdle. In terms of how they use AI to do it, I just Sure, maybe you can do the case study, but I don't think there's a risk there. There's a danger because everyone is so used to, not everyone, a lot of candidates are so used to just putting out data words, data slash words out there that you can't authenticate that. The best way to authenticate that is through a phone, right? And then that's why you use a recruiter because who has the time to sit 45 minutes to an hour trying to authenticate someone's experience?
Right.
Just call someone who's trained to do it.
No, you're absolutely right. Okay, so next question. As a female leader who has successfully navigated multiple recessions and a global pandemic, what has been your most expensive lesson in leadership, and how did it shape the way you run your firm today?
Okay, well, that's actually a great question. The economic cycles and the downturns have been really challenging. I think that the biggest lesson I've learned, and there's a lot of people that say it, hire fast, fire faster.
Mhm.
And I think as a leader, you know, I don't mean this to be insensitive. I think that a lot of times you carry a lot of hope in that person that's in the seat. Maybe you see someone, you give them 2 or 3 months to level up, to get better. But you're starting to recognize what that employee's problem is. You see their weaknesses. And if you don't address it fast enough, you're going to end up losing money and not just money, but time, because now you're spending time trying to cultivate that person. And you have to be honest with yourself. I would say yeah, I would say honesty. Once you identify a weak personnel person in your organization, I think it's super important to identify it, try to rectify it, or let go of it.
Mhm.
It sounds insensitive, but I think in a world that we're moving in today, the market is being so competitive, and you got to move, and you have to be honest. Don't try to sugarcoat bad work product because it's only time lost. I also think that in being that honest, it's important to be honest with your employee. If your employee is doing a bad job, it's super important to talk to them. A lot of times people don't know what they're doing wrong unless it's brought up to them. And I think that's what the winning character piece is if you tell a employee that they're doing a bad job, and they sit and they say, wow, gosh, thank you so much. I am going to rectify the situation. I'm going to do better. Then you have an A player. But if you have someone who just wants to pacify you and just say, yeah, well, whatever,
Yeah.
then you're on the wrong path and just, part ways. How that's kind of moved into what I'm doing now. At my previous firm, we had employees, and that's great. I loved them all. Um, but I love what Search Intelligence Group is. And what Search Intelligence Group is now, it's a consortium of LLCs, meaning independent recruiters that want to join forces together in a number of ways, the resources, the collaboration. And I think that if I were an independent recruiter sitting in my living room, trying to recruit, that's great. Sure, I can do it.
Hmm.
But how lonely is it, right? Recruiting, as recruiters, oftentimes we're coaches, we're consultants, but we need coaching and consulting too.
Right.
So I think that that's what I've done differently with Search Intelligence Group is get the leadership, the consulting, and the coaching, but not the managing, if that makes sense. And it's great. I think that the people that join Search Intelligence Group, the recruiters that join Search Intelligence Group are massively ambitious. I think that they want to win in every situation, but we all need some help, right? Even Tom Brady is fantastic, but he leans on a coach. Kobe Bryant, think about um, all of the things that he did, but still needed a coach. So as great as you are, you still need collaboration and coaching.
No, it's funny. I just spoke to someone last week and she has three coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
One, obviously a fitness coach, a business coach and a just your self-help, spiritual, whatever coach. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah. I have my own coaches as well. I have on-demand mentorship because
Yes.
I need it as well.
Yes. That's another topic.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two more questions. So, if you were sitting across from a candidate who is terrified of the 2026 economy headlines, what is the one piece of recession-proof advice you would give them to make themselves indispensable?
The Gen X person in me says, suck it up, buttercup. But I,
Yeah.
I think that I think it goes on whether it's AI or not, right? If you could be afraid of AI technology, you could be afraid of NetSuite or a different accounting system. You want to beat out your competition. You want to level up your experience. And how do you level up your experience? If I'm talking to a candidate, is to be intellectually curious. Intellectually
Yeah.
curious. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think just be curious. Want to learn, want to be faster, not from a pressure standpoint, right? If you enjoy it and you want to create fun out of it, I think one of the best things you could do is just be curious of what's happening in the market. Go into trade publications of industries that you love. Follow, everyone's on social media these days, right? Follow a social media handle or platform that is constantly giving you little tidbits of how to stay relevant in the market. And I think that the more knowledge that somebody has, the less stress we are, right? The more knowledge I have in something, the less stressful. So gain the knowledge from so many tools out there, newsletters, trade publications, social media, YouTubes. And if you're curious, learn and join networking events. Join events where you see that the people are geared towards what you want to learn. And that's it. If you're a candidate and you're just afraid of AI, that's cool. But you want to suck it up and learn.
And I'm so sorry, gardeners are leaf blowing. So
Can't
I had
hear
to,
it.
so I have one more question before they continue. Going back to the recruiter, and like you said, we're a bunch of your recruiters under your under search intelligence group. But
Yeah.
what is the one thing you want the recruiter of 2036 to know about the foundation you are building right now? And I'm going to go on mute
Hmm.
because they're still leaf blowing. Sorry.
Yeah. What is the one thing I want a recruiter to know in 2036? I mean, knowledge is, uh, I'm going to use the words nimble, right? Spend the next ten years being nimble. And what does nimble look like? That means that, again, going back to the intellectual curiosity, try and learn who's doing what are your competitors are doing, what is your industry doing, what are your clients doing, right? And I think that try to capture as many tools as possible that you think can make you successful. I think that if I were to think about my own personal experience in the last 5 years, I started to recognize that technology was changing our industry, good or bad. It was changing it in a way where I knew I had to be competitive. I had to be smarter. I had to be curious. And in that curiosity, it was important to learn. What can I capture? What can I gain? What can I learn to make myself smarter, better, faster? And I think that in the next 10 years, I'm going to continue to do that. And I recommend that every, recruiter, whether they're part of search intelligence group or not, continues to learn what is everybody out there, what is everybody else doing, learn, grow. Um, and then from, a bigger standpoint, the next 10 years, you want to solidify your relationships, gain as much, in the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of changes, right? Technology wise. And we're already feeling it now. People are using AI to hire. Well, I think that they're going to use AI to hire. but the leading executives are going to use a headhunter. So what can you do? I would highly recommend solidifying those relationships. In the information that you're learning from a technology standpoint or industry standpoint, use that as a value add to your conversations with your operating partners, your capital partners, your CEOs, your CFOs, your COOs, right? So solidify those relationships. And while you may not be able to have all of the relationships in the country, have the relationships that you can count on and they can count on you.
Well said. So well said. Yeah, even if you look back 10 years from now, obviously it didn't we or 20 years from now, even 30 years from now, my goodness, we obviously did not have the same kind of technology. But what's still
Yeah,
the same is the relationships that we've created and how
yeah,
truthful we are, how kind we are, and how we can work well with others.
yeah, yeah.
Marie, that's all the questions I have for you.
Oh, bummer. I could
I
talk all day.
know. I could have more. I mean, we definitely can talk more, but that will just be for another time.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for everyone else who is watching too.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.